the records have been pulled, correct?
Yes, they have.
You've been flooded with those records many times, haven't you?
I've been asked by you, yes.
And by others, right?
Yes.
I mean, the police have asked you about it. You've been interviewed about it.
I've been asked by you.
And Mr. Lally?
Yeah, Mr. Lally asked about it, yes.
And every time you're asked, it's about a Google search at 2:27 a.m. That's all I'm asking.
It is, but it's not one that I remember doing or making or did. It's not one I did. It's just one that is in a record that was misread.
Are you denying that you made a Google search at 2:27 a.m.?
If you could show me this Google search, I'd appreciate it.
When you go to bed, do you stay up at all?
Yes.
Do you use your iPhone?
Yes, I do.
What were you doing?
I texted a few people, and then I did a couple of Google searches. Been through an extremely traumatic event together. There's nothing evil here.
Robert's number.
Who said that? There's a tale if I've ever heard one.
There's nothing evil here.
Am I correct that yesterday you essentially said that as of today, no Celebrite tool, no Insight suite such as Physical Analyzer, today shows that 2:27:40 a.m. timestamp?
Correct. If you use any version from the last approximately year, that timestamp won't show up.
There's other companies and tools that can be used for that, correct?
Correct.
And isn't one of the companies that can be used a competitor of Celebrite called Magnet Forensics?
Correct.
And they have a tool called Axiom, A-X-I-O-M, that evaluates questions such as this, correct?
They do.
And is Magnet Forensics a reputable company?
They are.
The other companies, they do acknowledge that this timestamp forwards and backgrounding stuff only in Knowledge C could cause an issue as far as it being ambiguous as to what it means. But the reason this is not that is because of the typos in the different searches, the way the records don't match each other in the different databases, the backwards in time for later records in the sequence. All of that does not spell ambiguity in the timestamp, whether it was foregrounded or backgrounded. That's a completely different thing altogether.
The next day searches, the 623 and 624. So all along to this point, people have thought somebody had told her, okay, just Google it again the next morning, and then we'll say that that was the search at 220, whatever. But that's not what you've discovered.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
When that database stores data, it has two versions. The most recent version and the version in use here uses what's called a write-ahead log. So before data is committed, it is written to a write-ahead log.
Yet her own table that she shows you that she found with the SANS tool has recorded 29 commits over 16 records.
The SALT table that the
right.
Yeah. Yes,
The
that's
SALT
right.
table basically proved that they went to the same filing cabinet, to the same file, to the exact same page inside the file, the same record inside that file, and had 29 attempts at trying to change it. That's what Jessica Hyde proved. So between the two of them, you had to see both of their exhibits together, which is why in my videos I concatenated it into a single table to show you because what Ian Whiffen had done was he'd spread it out over so many exhibits. We got 2 records from HistoryDB. Then a little while later in his yak, he gives you 2 more records from the HistoryDB. And then a little while later, you see 10 records from the HistoryDB. And they were all put into evidence as separate exhibits. So and then he leaves out stuff that's not supporting his argument and so on and so forth. And so you had to put both of their exhibits and the testimonies together into one, and then to just concatenate the data into one so that you could see what it was that they were looking at.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe, I don't have a paper copy, but I'm going to ask you to take a look at something that we display on the screen and ask you a couple of questions about that.
I object to the way it's presented here.
Okay, take it down. That's not how it appears. You need to get rid of a column. Right?
That's exactly how it appears, Your Honor. That's the
House of
record.
Counsel, it's sidebar.
And what were the searches for?
One, my daughter had played in a basketball game earlier in the night, and it was a very good game.
If we flip back to Browser State DB, row 4026 claims the Hockey Mock Gallery page was visited at 2:27:35 on January 29th. We can verify this by cross-referencing with the other databases using that timestamp and URL. HistoryDB shows us the same URL was visited on January 27th. This is marked as visit 31407, not January 29th. Knowledge CDB shows us this URL appeared on screen at 2:27:37 for only 1 second. Some might argue this is consistent with tab switching rather than actual navigation.
And you'll remember we discussed this, that perhaps she was opening up different tabs that were already there and trying to decide which one she might want to use to make this search, How Long to Die in Cold.
So I went and I read the report on it, and then my other daughter had an offer to play on a basketball team, so we had to make a decision about whether or not we were going to accept the spot. So I was just looking up that basketball club.
You went upstairs, is that right?
Yes.
You began to engage with your phone at
Yes.
that time. What application did you open up on your phone once you got upstairs?
It could have been Hockomock Sports.
I'm sorry, I'm backing up foundationally. What application on the phone? Was it Safari?
Oh, okay, yes. I think, yes.
You used Safari as your browser?
I'm not sure what I used.
You opened up a search engine as well within that browser, did you not?
I just know I Googled Hockomock Sports, I believe. I'm not sure what app I opened or how I went about it.
So Google is a search engine. You use Google.
Possibly. I mean, that's just an expression, but I'm not, if you could show my record, I'm not sure what app I opened.
Well, Ms. McCabe, you've seen this record many, many times about that search early in the morning hours, correct? You know that it was a Google search.
It was Google. Okay, it was a Google search.
Okay, so it was a Google search using the Safari app.
Does anybody else think that it's a little odd that when asked these questions by Hank Brennan, she didn't seem to have a problem answering them?
I texted a few people, and then I did a couple of Google searches.
And what were the searches for?
One, my daughter had played in a basketball game earlier in the night, and it was a very good game, so I went and I read the report on it. And then my other daughter had an offer to play on a basketball team, so we had to make a decision about whether or not we were going to accept the spot. So I was just looking up that basketball club.
But now, in the 24 hours or 48 hours since that line of questioning, she's completely forgot. She's got no idea what she was doing. I don't know if I was using Safari or Google. Just, do you have that so I can take a look? If you can't see the evidence in this case, God help you. God help you. These people do nothing but lie. You go down the rabbit hole, and then you come back and you tell me how this is okay with you, how outright perjury, deception, evasion, distancing, anything they can do to avoid answering questions directly. You tell me why and how it is okay.
Look at a record, I don't recall
You
off the top
certainly
of my
recall
head.
that time frame, don't you?
I know I was home and I Googled that, but I don't remember the exact time.
You do recognize 2:27 a.m.
I do recognize it, but it's not from me remembering it from that night specifically. It's from me learning afterwards.
See, first of all, she's eye shielding here. And the reason that she is saying she doesn't remember it from memory is because in the time since she was questioned under direct and now, she's learned that the judge is going to throw her a bone, is going to give her a get out of jail free card anytime that she can't testify from memory. So she's trying to get the judge and the prosecutor's office in this case to back her up and object to this line of questioning because she's learned, well, if I just say that it wasn't from memory and I don't know, it's just from looking at documents or whatever, then she's off the hook. That's what she's learned in the 48 hours since she's been questioned on the stand. And that's what she's trying to do here. The only problem is she already testified to this on direct. So not so easy this time to just get out of jail free. Although the judge does try on a number of occasions, throw her a life preserver and say, okay, move on, Mr. Jackson. What a disgrace these people are. Disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
And what you learned afterwards was there was a Google search at 2:27 a.m. Right? I mean, that's a layup, to use a basketball term, right?
There's a record, I think, of one.
Right. The record.
Oh, there's a record, I think. I think there's a record of one. Only a record that I've looked at, I don't know how many hundreds of times. How many conversations, dear, have you had with Ian Whiffen, who's your buddy, your pal, but now you don't know about the Google search record? Are you kidding me?
Is of a Google search at 2:27 a.m. on your phone. Is that right?
I'm not a phone expert, so I don't know. I can't read.
She is so deceptive here that she just stops talking in mid-sentence. This is just egregious, outright lying. Outright lying.
Phone expert, so I don't know. I can't read.
You're well aware. You don't have to be a phone expert to know that there was a Google search on your phone recovered
What a
at
disgusting
2:27
human
in the
being
morning.
you are.
You know that. You've been told that. You've seen it. You've been asked about it dozens of times, haven't you?
I have been asked about it dozens of times, yes.
So let's set the foundation. There was a Google search on your phone at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Which Google search are you referring to?
It doesn't matter, Ms. McCabe.
Well, I know I did Ozone and I did Hockamock Sports.
And I didn't ask
and
you
those
that.
were the only two things that I Googled.
I didn't.
Right, of course. And the funny thing is, somebody just happened to go back into this record, this Google search, and spend hours making every effort that they could to hide this search.
So what we see here is that the form was submitted, so you see the little pluses to replace the spaces, and the server responded with UTF-8 encoding. And SQLite clearly committed it to record because we can see that whole string recorded right here in the user visible URL. We also know because the server responded there should be a whole bunch of other records. But for some reason there's no other records. There's no connection logs. There's no DNS lookup records. Nothing anywhere. Not even in the iOS system itself. That shit doesn't happen unless somebody went looking for it all to delete it manually. And this 16 records that we're looking at here is proof that someone tried to delete it manually. The order index column is evidence that supports manual deletion attempts. You see how it goes from 10 down to 6 for quite a few records and then down to 0. This shows progressive manipulation. And then the commit column tells us what order this was done in. Each increment represents a separate database transaction. These increments show us that the modifications happened over many transactions, not a single operation or automated process.
You indicated you wanted to see a record, Ms. McCabe. Did you see a record that indicated a Google search? Not what the contents of the Google search is, but there was a Google search.
I just saw a Celebrate record, yes.
And did you see the time of the Google search?
On that record, yes.
So you agree that you were on Google, correct?
Yes.
You agree that there was a search done at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I don't recall doing a search at 2:27. The paper says it. I don't. I texted a few people, and then I did a couple of Google searches.
Okay. And you also agree that at some point that morning, you plugged into that phone, Pass Long to Die in Cold. Is that right?
Yes, after we found John O'Keefe. I had a very strong, I think deep down I knew that John was gone. But, you know, until you hear it, I think there was that little bit of hope maybe.
You can actually see when she flips into sort of fabricated storytelling mode. I mean, it literally has a different tone to it. It feels almost sing-songy, the way that she's talking. It is a visceral shift.
We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming, because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
In how she is communicating.
I was extremely concerned. I was calling Kerry.
And that's censoring there. The reason why she's struggling to get words out is because she's censoring what she's saying.
Trying to get updates about John. I was worried about John, his family.
Of course.
About Kaylee. I had a very strong, I think deep down I knew that John was gone. But, you know, until you hear it, I think there was that little bit of hope maybe.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
Yes, he's got to do CPR. No, I guess he's gone.
Okay, they don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right, we have the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you, and if anything changes, you can give us a call back.
No, Kerry, you got to get off of me. Kerry, you got to get off of him. This is he.
So you sought out her phone number. First you tried my client, Karen Reed, correct?
Correct.
But then you found another source for that information. Is that right?
Correct.
You've been friends with the O'Keefe family for years, haven't you?
Correct.
So you didn't have a need to get Carrie Roberts' phone number, did you?
I wanted to speak with Kerry, see how she was doing. I was not going to call Peg.
You had her
Why not, Jen?
phone number, didn't you?
I do, yes.
So if you wanted to check on somebody, you could have just called her.
I was not going to call Peg O'Keefe on the way to see her.
To see her son's lifeless body at the hospital? Could that be what she's about to say here?
Also, we had just...
Right, so now she remembers her statement. So as she is defending herself against Alan Jackson, she remembers the rehearsed statement, right? Also, we had just been through something traumatic together, and I wanted to know how she was doing, right?
Been through an extremely traumatic event together. There's nothing evil here.
Robert's number.
Who said that? There's a tell if I've ever heard one, right? Remember, you can't say something that you're not thinking, and she did this all by herself. Alan Jackson said nothing about evil. That came from her mouth.
There's nothing evil here.
Wow. Is because you wanted to make sure that you controlled her story.
We were putting a timeline together.
And so when you got together, it was at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe?
Yes, she wanted us to do it, so I did it.
Wow.
She wanted us to remember and try to jot down everything we remembered so we wouldn't forget.
And Jennifer McCabe, was helping you with the timeline, and you were helping her with the timeline.
Yes, we were putting together the events of what had happened.
So she was helping you, and you were helping her, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So both of you were assisting in each other's memories, correct?
Yes.
I remember this, and you remember this, and okay, now I remember this, correct?
Yep.
Obviously, that would help influence your memory, going over the event with someone else, correct?
Yep.
One thing I just want to say, and we're going to have to come back to this at a different point, because there's a lot of, how do I want to say this? Untruths, false statements in Ms. Carrie Roberts' testimony as well that I just recently went back and analyzed for actually this very purpose. And I was pretty surprised at how willing she was to be deceptive. But it's also very clear that Ms. Jennifer McCabe, used this woman, and Carrie was just like the most willing participant you've ever seen. Like a pawn who was just like played to the fullest nth degree. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be their lily white, heroic, nun-like witness, right? This is Brennan's princess witness. And she is shattered on cross-examination because she, too, can't seem to tell the truth.
So what's on that timeline, you would agree, is not completely independent, your memory. It's a combination of your memory and Jennifer McCabe's memory. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Have you ever testified, or have you ever stated in any particular, that during that interaction, Karen asked the three of you to pray?
Yes.
Have you ever said or testified that during that interaction where you're seated, where they're seated in the back of the patrol car, and Ms. Reed asked you to pray, that Ms. Reed said to Jennifer McCabe, Google hypothermia?
No.
You've never said that?
I've never said that.
You testified at the grand jury on April 26th. Is that right? April 26th, 2022?
I do not know.
Right? Does that sound right? April 26th, 2022?
I have no idea.
Right. She has no idea. Of course not.
It was 2022.
You testified under oath, correct?
Yes.
Swore the same oath that you swore here.
Yes.
God, she really was shredded in this second trial by Alan Jackson. Just all of her credibility went just flying out the window during this whole cross-examination.
Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, but penalty of perjury. Is that right?
Yeah.
You have never said that Karen told Jen to Google hypothermia, or that you don't recall saying that.
I don't recall saying that.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at portion of your grand jury testimony from that day?
It might.
Is that what she said? I don't think she said that.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you told the grand jury?
Yes.
And isn't it true that at some point during the course of your testimony under oath, you said that Karen was in the back of the police cruiser?
Yes.
And then you went on to describe that Karen and Jen and I were standing outside, and she made us all start holding hands and starting to pray.
Yes.
I mean, what the she being Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
And at this point, they had lifted John up and taken him onto the gurney, correct? That's
I don't
what you
know.
described.
I don't recall.
And you testified basically that you think, at least that's what you were telling the grand jurors, that you think that was the point at which they lifted John up and moved him into the ambulance, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were asked a question, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, correct? Objection.
Do you recall that? I did not hear the question about Google being asked.
That's not my question. May I ask? May I inquire?
Just repeat that question.
Sure. Isn't it true that you were next asked by Mr. Lally in front of the grand jury, quote, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, end quote. Remember being asked that question?
No.
Look at like 16.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Such a lie.
Does that refresh your recollection? That was the question that you were asked?
Yes.
And in response to that question, you stated, quote, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long Google hypothermia. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Doesn't like being in trouble, does she?
That was very detailed. You'll agree that that's a very detailed and specific recount of an event. You recounted where you were, back of a cruiser, or they were in the back of a cruiser, correct?
Yep.
You recorded or reported
What
the
a
time.
disgrace.
It was right around the time that you thought they were lifting John up and scooping him up onto the gurney, correct?
Yep. I thought it was about that time. I wasn't sure.
Location,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that answer. You were talking over each other.
That's my mistake.
What was your answer, Ms. Roberts?
I thought it was about the time they lifted him up, but I wasn't sure.
You were very detailed about who was there. It was you. It was Jen. It was my client, Karen
Yes.
Reed, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
You were so detailed that you talked about where you were standing next to the cruiser open door, correct?
Yes.
What the others were doing, holding hands and praying, is that right?
Yes.
And the actual words used. You were as detailed about all of that as the actual words used. She asked her to Google hypothermia and how long, and then you stopped, Google hypothermia, end quote, correct?
Correct.
You will agree, at least for that purpose, you painted a very, very detailed picture in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
Yeah.
Except it's not true, is it?
I did not hear her ask that. I was told she was asked that.
So that's a big fat no. No, it is not true.
Carrie Roberts is not a corroborating witness for you. You understand that? You just said that.
Yes, Carrie, I don't believe heard it. She
So
was
it's-
sent off.
So it's your word and your word only, Ms. McCabe, that my client demanded a Google search. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. McCabe, you were with Carrie Roberts just before her grand jury testimony. Is that right?
Yes.
You had been with her to create a timeline of a version of events that occurred, correct?
I wouldn't say a version of events. We each put down what we remembered.
She saw what you put down, you saw what she put down.
Yes.
And you compared and contrasted those with each other to create that timeline, correct?
No, we didn't compare and contrast. I said she called me, she said this, then Carrie, and someone was writing it down for us. Because we're just like normal moms, we're not used to this.
The fourth time you met with police was February 2nd, the very next day, at about 12:08 p.m. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Do you remember signing a consent form for your phone?
Yes.
Was that the next day after this interview with Trooper Prince and Trooper
I don't know
Keith?
what day it was. It was right after Karen was arraigned for the first time. Jen and I met with them and both handed our phones over willingly.
So you've just answered my question. So when you met with police, whatever the date was, it was a few days later, you met with police. You had a fourth time, you were still in the presence of Jennifer McCabe when you met with police.
Yes.
And handed your phone over, is that right?
Yes.
And she handed her phone over, is that right?
Yes.
Were there two other phones that you inevitably analyzed?
Yes, there were.
Let's start with the first one. Did you have an opportunity to create a file on a phone that came from Kerry Roberts?
Yes, I did.
Now, you said it's a two-step process. First is the extraction, the copying, and then it's creating the file.
That's exactly right.
With Kerry Roberts' phone, did you make the extraction? Did you plug it into the gray key?
No, I didn't.
Who did?
Trooper Connor Keefe.
Yes. Did Connor Keefe write that report?
I'm sorry?
Did Connor Keefe write that report?
Trooper Kathleen Prince wrote the report.
Okay.
Does that matter? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Trooper Keefe, you testified that you received the cell phone of Jennifer McCabe and of Kerry Roberts?
Correct.
With regard to the cell phone of Jennifer McCabe in particular, you had her sign what is called a consent form, correct?
That's correct.
What is a consent form?
It allows the trooper or law enforcement to, with the owner's consent, we are able to conduct an extraction of the device.
Okay. And on that consent form, there is a description of the item itself?
Yes.
The password was provided on that consent form?
Yes.
And the form was signed, correct?
Yes.
By both Jennifer McCabe and by you, correct?
Yes.
And there was also a second trooper that would have signed the form as well?
That's correct.
With regard to the timing of the signing of that form, Jennifer McCabe dated it February 2nd of 2022?
Yes.
You also dated it February 2nd of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Jennifer McCabe did not list a time, but you did, correct?
I would have to look at the consent form.
Okay, so your memory, you don't remember what time you indicated or if you indicated a time, but looking at the consent form would refresh your memory?
Yes.
Within the CPAC or the Norfolk County Detectives, every case that comes in is assigned to one particular trooper as the lead investigator in the case, correct?
That is something that a supervisor would do.
The lead investigator is the trooper who is responsible for the case, correct?
Yes.
Michael Proctor was the lead investigator for the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, was he not?
Yes.
How do you know Trooper Connor Keefe?
He went to meet with Kerry Roberts, received the device from her. He brought it back to the office and did the extraction. His name is also on the extraction gray key progress reports as well.
And separately, did you know, or did you, let me ask it a different way, was a phone from Jennifer McCabe extracted?
Yes, it was.
Did you do the extraction?
No, I did not.
Was the information after extracted again provided to a digital file?
It would have been, yes.
Did you, at some point later, did you make a copy to provide to the parties?
Yes, I did.
And the two of you were together when you signed your consent forms, is that right?
Yes.
Now, you're aware that Jennifer McCabe signed a consent form on February 2nd of 2022 for her cell phone to be imaged?
Yes.
And a full forensic extraction was performed on that phone sometime shortly after February 2nd of 2022?
I don't remember the exact date. I didn't download her phone.
But in any case, you generated a Celebrite full file system extraction report on May 31st of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that that Celebrite report was the one that was turned over to the defense in this case, correct?
That is correct.
Do you know the chain of custody of Jen McCabe's iPhone?
I don't, no.
So you don't know the chain of custody of her iPhone. You have an unsigned hash value, and you can't guarantee the hash value authentication, correct?
No.
The objection's overruled.
Not from the hash value, no.
Prior to April 24th of 2023, you had not reported in any formal manner with anything that was shared with the defense about the existence of 3 Google searches by Jennifer McCabe, correct?
I never looked at Jennifer McCabe's phone. Did I physically open the phone, or did it
Did you review the data at all?
from, I'm confused, for on the cell phone itself or from the report?
Either way.
No, her phone was returned to her, and then we had the extraction. I did not utilize the extraction at all.
You never included the 2 searches that we discussed, the, how long TI die in CIKD and how long to die in cold, in the full file system extraction that was turned over to the defense, did you?
They were included.
Well, page 6 of your April 24th, 2023 report goes on to state that when you switch to a new version of Celebrate, and this
Sorry,
one dropped out.
Yeah, it was the phone call, the power log.
Page 6 of your April 24th, 2023 report says that when you switch to a new version of Celebrate Physical Analyzer, which was version 7.61.0.12, you found an artifact from the browser state DB wall file for a Google search of Hoslong to die in cold at 2:27 and 40 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Does that show the 2 deleted calls to Jen McCabe's sister, Nicole, who was saved as Coco in her phone?
I don't know who it's coming from, but it does say it's going to Coco, and then, again, coming from wall files, correct.
All right. And your report doesn't mention it, but what was the duration of those 2 calls according to that log?
On this sheet here, it says 9 seconds for the first one and then 7 seconds for the other.
When you see the search, right there, correct?
I see the search, but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
6:23.
And you agree that that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
The next day searches, the 623 and 624. So all along to this point, people have thought somebody had told her, okay, just Google it again the next morning, and then we'll say that that was the search at 220, whatever. But that's not what you've discovered.
No,
Am I right?
I discovered that they were just copied and pasted records that they copied from another record at a different time and just pasted a different timestamp into that record and a different URL into that record to try and mess it all up and make it look different.
And
I'm
what
sure they
makes
had
you say that? I mean,
the fact that it doesn't match in any other databases, that there's no corresponding records. The only corresponding records in the other databases are from previous days. They're not from the 29th. They're from way back to the 25th. None of them correspond with the 29th in the other databases.
wow.
That's what gives it away.
Wow. Okay. So the only search, therefore, that's legitimate is the one that they were desperate to hide, which is the one at 227.
No, I think at 10:33, she tried to do the how long tit die in the Kikut. That stupid one.
Kitty or CIKD.
I think she did
Okay.
try to do that one to try and cover her tracks.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
That specific record jumped out at me in the first trial because they're all focused on the 227. Next minute, AJ froze up, the 220, the 10 a.m. stuff. And I was like, get the hell out of here. She's searching it. That looks like she was trying to add to the confusion through her own phone interface. But it doesn't match anything in the corresponding databases,
Well,
which
that
still
would make
indicates
sense.
manipulation.
That makes sense, though. I mean, if she was Googling it at 10:30, because at 10:30 a.m., she's sitting in a room full of people in the kitchen at the Albert's house at 34 Fairview. Right?
Right. Sorry, I was muted and didn't realize. Yes, that's exactly
right.
Yeah. So
Oh.
the whole comparing what was and wasn't there in the records is the red flag that Ian Whiffen should have been saying. As a forensic expert, he should be saying the fact that we can't correlate all this data means something is going on, right?
To cover your tracks, you searched it again in order to overwrite the original search at 227, correct?
Again, absolutely not.
But you were nervous and you screwed it up. So the first search you made at 623 was Hoslong to die in CIKD, wasn't it?
No.
In other words, is this Jennifer McCabe getting off on the fact that Alan Jackson doesn't have this quite right here? Because what actually happened was these two searches were cut and pasted to make it seem like she conducted them at the request of Karen Reed at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., coordinated during that 10:30 a.m. time slot when she's sitting around at 34 Fairview Road, the Albert's kitchen table.
When you see the search, right there, correct?
I see the search, but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
6:23.
And you agree that that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
Note she won't confirm it here.
About 6:23 in the morning in 51 seconds.
Correct.
Even that correct, she can barely get the words out.
But the reality is, your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search, did it? It was a different spelling, wasn't it?
I never searched a 227. That is not reality.
But the 6:24 search did exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
I'm sure Celebrate will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
As we covered in the last video, browser state DB should show us the tab state changes, open, close, focus. History DB should show us the page navigation, any new URLs loaded, for example. And Knowledge CDB should show us what's visible on the screen, what was actually displayed. For example, Browser State DB, row 4028, claims that the Google search, House Long to Die in the Cold, was made at 2:27:40. History DB has no entry, but let's assume some searches don't create history. Not finding an entry in History DB would be to be expected. In Knowledge CDB, we would expect to see the search URL visible on the screen at 2:27:40, but what we see at 2:27:40 in Knowledge C is actually Ozone Basketball. This is a mismatch with browser state. Ozone Basketball could not be on the screen at the exact same moment, down to the second, as the incriminating Google search. This proves that the Ozone Basketball timestamp is faked. So essentially, we're just using the same methodology that Whiffen and Hyde both described, but we're coming up with different results because we're just looking at what order did things happen in. In the previous video, I showed you that they weren't the same tab, and that Hyde's own salt table shows us that all of these things regarding the house-long search happened in one session. And then in this video, I want to show you the structural impossibilities. This has nothing to do with the timestamp. There's a structure problem. Besides the fact that we can clearly see they're not the same tab UIDs. In Jessica Hyde's pizza restaurant analogy, she never once mentions that the waiter knows which table or which customer at which table ordered what food because of their table number.
So there's two really key elements as to if that was user deleted. If the question is, did I come to opinion? Yes.
And can you explain how you came to an opinion that we'll ultimately share with the jury?
The first line in that exhibit, the ending of that, if you remember, it said browser state.db-wall. That's important, so we'll talk about that in a second. But the first thing I want to bring up is kind of how the database works, because I didn't just look at the tool result. I extracted that database and I did a deeper analysis on it using Sanderson's tool, because that information was in that dash wall file. So when a SQLite database, which is a specific way of storing, very, very common on mobile phones, actually one of the most common, when that database stores data, it has two versions. The most recent version, and the version in use here, uses what's called a write-ahead log. So before data is committed, it is written to a write-ahead log.
Yet her own table that she shows you, that she found with the SANS tool, has recorded 29 commits over 16 records.
That's how a write-ahead log works. Any changes that are happening sit in the write-ahead log until the database is closed, and then when it's reopened, all those changes are made, both additions and deletions.
So let's have another look at her salt table. She said that data waits in the warming station before being delivered, and for uncommitted data that's true. But these 16 wall frames show commit numbers 25 all the way up to 54. That's 29 commits. In database terms, commit means save this, make it permanent, it's done. Committed data isn't waiting, it's been served. So why is it in the wall file 16 times with 29 different commit numbers? Because someone kept modifying it and hitting save 29 times. So it's not food waiting to be delivered. This is someone editing an order that was already delivered. 29 attempts to change history, and SQLite recorded every single attempt. Now, looking at the salt column, think of this like a session ID. If you close the database and reopen it, you'll get a new salt number. These 16 wall frames have the same salt, 4044. That means one database session, it was never properly closed, all modifications in one sitting. It can only mean one person, one computer, one tampering session. If this was normal Safari use from 2:27 a.m. to 6:24 a.m., Safari would have opened and closed the database multiple times, so we would have seen different salt values across those hours. She said the data is waiting when it's actually committed 29 times. Then she said deletions go back to the warming station, not how the write-ahead log works. Her write-ahead log data shows us that all 16 orders were for the same pizza. The same pizza for the same table for the same eating session.
And just in case you're watching this on a tiny little screen and you're not able to see what the URL says, I want to be clear, it is the House Long to Die in Cold URL that is being tampered with here.
House Long to Die in Cold. But also note the duration. The 6:23:56 one only lasted for 1 second. The 6:23:57 through to 6:24:24 lasts 27 seconds. The time, together with the return value from the server, i.e. equals UTF-8, etc., tells us the search was completed. The subsequent pizza order, which is spelled differently, was ordered at 10:33 a.m. We can also see by the Z object ID that these are 3 different database records, or 3 different pizza orders if you prefer. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 has to do with SQL's automatic sequence numbers. Remember in the last video I told you can't mess with the row ID because it's automatically assigned by the SQL database. The only way you could mess with it is leaving the row number there and copying and pasting the timestamp and the URL into that row. So when we look at row 4025 right through to 4031, they appear to be in the right sequence. In normal operation, next row ID would be 4032 and then 4033, for example. So the row IDs look right, what doesn't look right is the dates.
And once again, just in case you can't see what's on your screen, here are the dates blown up for you. And you can see with your own eyes that these dates don't line up at all. For some reason, we're going back in time several days. Oh, and the best part, guess which searches happen to be on the wrong day? You guessed it. Ozone basketball.
So let's revert back to the restaurant example. Table numbers are sequential. Table 15 gets seated before table 16. But in this database, table 4028 ordered on January the 29th, but tables 4029, 4030 and 4031 ordered on January the 26th. So either we have a case of time travel or we have database tampering. This order is impossible because SQLite assigns row IDs sequentially or auto-increment. Each new record gets the next available number. Row 4029 created after row 4025 because it's a higher number, but it has a timestamp from before row 4025, which is an earlier date. You can't create row 4029 on January the 26th when row 4025 already existed at a later date. This is mathematically impossible. It's not even an interpretation. It's mathematically incorrect. Problem number 3. We've already touched on this record a little earlier. This is row 4026. In the browser state DB, we see it was recovered from the write-ahead log. It claims Hockomock Sports Gallery was visited 2/27/35. We already established that there was no history DB entry for January the 29th for that record. There is, however, 2 visits to that address, numbered 31407 and 31408. Last visited January 27th, 2 days before the claimed 227 visit. And then Knowledge CDB shows the gallery page on the screen very briefly, but this is 2 seconds after browser state timestamp. This tells us that that page was not navigated at 2/27/35. Row 4027, the YouTube Weather Girls video. This timestamp tells us 2/27/38. It also tells us it's been recovered from the write-ahead log, but History DB tells us there were multiple visits on the 27th, visit number 31398 and 31402 at 4:58 p.m. There is no entry for January 29 in the History DB. Knowledge CDB indicates that that URL for the Weather Girls was only on the screen for 1 second, certainly not long enough to listen to the Weather Girls singing. This Knowledge C activity could be tab switching, but one thing is for certain, the page was not actually visited on January 29th at 2:27:38.
If you faded out and missed the last minute or so of what Aussie Insider is saying, rewind it right now, go back and listen again. This is the smoking gun.
Row 4030 for Ozone Basketball. Browser State DB shows us the timestamp of 10:33:35, recovered from the write-ahead log. History DB shows us 2 visits to that address, 31128 and 31129. It says January 25th was the last visit. There's no visit on January the 26th. So the last visit day of January 25th is a day before row 4030 claims in Browser State DB. Knowledge C shows us multiple entries around 2:27:40 and 10:33:40 showing Ozone Basketball /league, which is a different URL than row 4030 claims. Knowledge C would appear to show legitimate ozone activity, but not at times and URLs that Browser State claims. So this record is obviously fabricated with timestamp from HistoryDB.
So, in summary, to put it really simply, those sites that Jennifer McCabe claims to have been searching at 227, Huckamuck Sports and Ozone Basketball, because she had obviously maybe basketball on her mind, they didn't happen when she is claiming that they did. They did happen in the days prior, but they were not happening at the time in question.
Problem number 4 involves a broken visit ID chain during the 2:27 a.m. session. HistoryDB tells us that history visits 31457 through to 31462 were visits to Friday schedule and scoreboard, hockey mock standings, hockey mock schedules, girls hockey schedules, 2021 to 2022 Franklin girls hockey schedule, and hockey mock standings. However, Browser State DB tells us that visit 31458 is supposed to be hockey mock gallery and 31459 is supposed to be YouTube. If they were visited, they would be in those visit ID positions. But the actual 31458 visit is a different page at a later time. It proves those navigations didn't happen.
Just more evidence that what she's claiming is not what happened, could not be what happened when she is saying that it did. So no Ozone Basketball, no Huckamuck Sports, no hockey scores at 2:27 a.m. on January 29th of 2022.
Problem number 5. Row 4031 has a timestamp discrepancy. In Browser State DB, it shows 2 different timestamps for the same UUID. Already existing in the database was UUID BE9E 8EAF, etc., with a timestamp of 6/29/55 on the 31st, and an order index of 13. Recovered from the write-ahead log is the same UUID at timestamp 9:50 on the 25th, 6 days earlier, with an order index of 9. So we have the same row ID, the same tab ID, but different timestamps and different order index. And this suggests the record was modified. And finally, problem number 6. In Trial 1 testimony, Ian Whiffen claimed that the user must have closed Safari at 6:24 a.m. while the search was loading. He said he couldn't reconstruct session history for row 4028 because the data spanned several pages and the pointers didn't make sense. We already debunked the data spanned several pages in the last video. We know it was all one page, thanks to Jessica Hyde's salt table. His reference to pointers, though, flew right over my head until Alexis K raised it. So what pointers was he referring to? The only thing we can deduce is he was referring to pointers in the SHM, or the shared memory. And he didn't mention those pointers in Trial 2 testimony because he completely switched his story that the user had to have completed the 6:24 a.m. search because of the little pluses and the IE equals UTF-8 string. In Trial 2 testimony, he testified that she'd merely backgrounded Safari, she didn't close it. And so the contradiction between the 2 testimonies means that if Safari backgrounded, which he said in Trial 2, then the session continues and the pointers would be valid, so he should be able to reconstruct it. If Safari closed while loading, which is what he said in Trial 1, then the pointers would be corrupted and they can't be reconstructed. These 2 suggestions are mutually exclusive. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Whiffen. What shared memory corruption actually indicates is that shared memory contains pointers to the wall frames. Valid pointers means you can reconstruct the session. Invalid pointers means that you can't. Corruption indicates improper database shutdown. Or the database wasn't edited on the device, it was edited on a computer, and so the SHM wasn't saved back to the device. In my humble opinion, I think the SHM corruption proves external tool usage. In any case, Ian Whiffen can't explain it away with she backgrounded Safari, because if Safari backgrounded properly, then the shared memory would be valid. If this were just one red flag all by itself that could indicate external tool usage, then maybe a forensic examiner would ignore it. But now we've identified dozens of red flags between this video and the last video.
And just in case you missed all of that, we are lucky enough to have Aussie Insider summarize for us one more time.
Here's the undeniable facts. 2 searches with different typos. House long and how long TI. Clearly it's 2 different orders. One's pizza with the anchovy and the other one's pizza without the anchovy. Backwards row IDs. For example, 4029 on January 26th comes after row 4025 on January 29th. Mathematically impossible. Fabricated records proven. Row 4026, 4027, 4029 and 4030 all have discrepancies between the different databases. Sequential visit IDs prove no navigation happened between certain events claimed in browser state DB. SALT 4004 proves that this was a single session across all frames, and it contradicts a 16-hour deletion timeline by the system. And finally, the shared memory corruption. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Whiffen. Either the pointers don't make sense and you can't reconstruct it because it was improperly closed, or the pointers do make sense and you chose not to reconstruct it. This analysis is not interpretation of a specific timestamp. There is no ambiguity here. This is mathematical proof.
You wanted some witness to back up your story about this Google search, correct? Except it's not true, is it?
I did not hear her ask that. I was told she was asked that.
About this Google search, correct?
No, absolutely not. I don't need.
McCabe.
It was said. Karen said it. It's that simple.
And yet, that's what you testified to under oath, under penalty of perjury, in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
I did.
And the reason you did that, the reason that you said that false statement, was because someone told you to say it, correct?
Object.
Is that, I'm going to let her answer.
Nobody told me to say it. I knew it happened at that time,
How did you
which
know
is
it
why I
happened?
said it.
How did you know it happened, Miss Roberts, if no one told you it happened?
Because we wrote a timeline. We already spoke about that.
You wanted some witness to back up your story about this Google search, correct?
No, absolutely not. I don't need. I don't need.
McCabe.
It was said. Karen said it. It's that simple.
You're the only person saying that, though.
Yes, and I stand by that 110%. And by that 110%.
And the reason
that 110%.
And the reason that you wanted another witness to back up that statement is because you knew that that Google search for Haslam to die in cold points a very uncomfortable finger right toward you, correct?
I never did that search. I never did that search at 227. I never needed to instruct somebody. No.
You'll also note she repeatedly tries to use credibility builders, including the giant prominently featured cross around her neck, which apparently was a very intentional wardrobe addition to try to make us believe that she is a good Christian woman who doesn't lie. That's a credibility builder.
There's an apology again. Has someone told you that you need to apologize when you say, when there's an uncomfortable question that you don't want to answer?
No.
Have you discussed this with anybody?
No, and that's not an uncomfortable question. I'm fine to answer it.
How many times did you say, I apologize yesterday?
I didn't count.
And well, you know what I always say.
The data don't lie, people do.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything.